solve that problem. That's what I do. And titles are all okay, but I think end of the day, you need to solve a business problem through technology or through various department functions wherever you are. And that's what I do for living.
Yeah, and I can attest to that. I've known Vishal for quite a long time now, and he's not just he's the head of technology at Marks and Spencer. So like he says, he's just not about technology. He's been one of the very earliest business technology partners that I've seen in my life, and he's usually taken a very business approach to adopting technology. And for every question that he has, or for every issue that he faces, he tries to put it into a people process technology matrix and see as to where does it kind of land in, and that kind of determines the next steps he has to take. And what better person to have than Vishal to discuss on e-commerce and how to evolve an e-commerce strategy, and how to be relatively successful in doing so. And with Vishal, you can only expect an honest answer, an answer that's going to be relevant, and something that's going to make sense to all of us out here. So obviously, shoot in those questions as and when you can think of it. And so let's start the show. So Vishal, e-commerce, it's been a buzzword for a long, long time. Right? Business, I mean, it's been a buzzword as bad or as good as CRM about 20 years back. So what's your perspective on e-com today, and what are your views on
Siju, it's e-com is there for a pretty long time. As we know, in India, we had rediff.com and India Times and some uh, um, more e-commerce portals, and then it had its own waves up and down. But due to COVID, I think the question is more COVID situation. The question is much more relevant today. Uh, because we had a moment in this country's life when we had this demonetization, and that event actually made everyone realize the importance of digital money and digital payments.
it? Right.
And in today's scenario, people who never believed in e-com due to whatever reasons, as businesses, they started realizing the importance of having a direct connection with the consumers and their partnerships in the ecosystem. And hence, it is one of the topics which is in the board meetings today. So my view is, uh, first of all, very gracious of you that on your introduction about me, I think I'm just trying to do my bit. Uh, but let me just share my point of view on what's going on in ecom to answer your question. Um, you know, before COVID, there was a different world, and now we say it's a different world, but ultimately, we are going to emerge out of COVID-19 situation, and I would like to put across various different questions that why basically you want to create an e-com offering. If you are a B2B customers, if you are in a B2B scenario or a B2C scenario, what is your core? First of all, you need to understand as a company who you are and what's your core. Okay. Because I am hearing from my connects in the industry that somebody who is a category as cement industry is thinking of getting into e-com, EPC products basically, and even industrial products. So what's the need? How big is your catalog? Why there is a knee-jerk reaction to it? So that question need to be addressed and answered very clearly, and why you are trying to do this, and whom are you building this e-com product offering. As I mentioned earlier, that if there is a company and they never believed in e-com because of unit economics, and is not as favorable as the offline world, and today's situation has forced you to look at alternate ways to make a product available. But if that's your outlook, then you don't need to boil the ocean. But this is if this is part of your strategic initiative, and this is, you think that it's part of your transformation agenda, and you are not able to do that, and this situation has basically accelerated that need to transform, then it's a different answer to that question. Okay. But if it's like you are a retailer and there is a platform provider, the aggregator, and they're forcing you to toe the line on the dropship model or a pure play marketplace model, and if you're trying to create your e-com because of that reason, then it's a different situation. Okay. So I would say that first of all, you need to answer and be very clear why you are doing this. Okay. Because then it's not a simple business case that people, I have seen people creating business case that trend is towards this and that, and that's why you have to do it. Basically, you need to put your customer at the center and understand why is it customer you are trying to address to, or you are trying to address to, who are you trying to address? Is it the situation or something else? And that can give your business case a different spin altogether. And this is more of your business model and operating model kind of a answer. That's
So
my
Vishal,
views.
yeah, you're quite right. And in fact, and if you were to look at businesses which are new, or if there's someone who is wanting to start a business who is, let's say, in a remote corner of Uttar Pradesh or Madhya Pradesh or Kerala for that matter, one of the easiest ways for him to open up business and cater to a large section of the consumer today is through a marketplace, right?
Mm.
You could get onto an Amazon or a Flipkart and be a seller, and you just start selling. Obviously, with these marketplaces taking care of your fulfillment strategies as well, it's become much more easier these days. So getting onto the e-commerce world or getting onto a marketplace is a no-brainer. I think it's a strategy that augments every brand. But having said that, obviously, one doesn't get onto the e-commerce bandwagon just because your neighbor has done it. Because, like you rightly said, the target segment could be different. The very purpose of your business could be different. Now, coming to this particular point around marketplaces versus your own e-commerce site. Now, that's one of the problems that or questions that a lot of these folks are struggling with today. Do I get onto a marketplace or do I open up my own e-commerce site? What's your take on it?
See, my take is very simple here. These days, marketplaces see, if you're a small and medium player, then the model is little different. Okay, because and if you're a bigger brand, then the model is very different, because most of the marketplaces, what they're doing is they are pushing everyone towards a pure play marketplace. What does it mean? It means that they have their own it's like a virtual mall kind of a thing, and the direction is to create more of a T-mall of India. Okay.
Correct.
And wherein you have your own space, your brand is given a space on the digital, on the category and the overall as a brand, and then you can have your own category. So it's like a virtual mall, and then you manage that space. So right from merchandise planning and the site operations to what you want to price on that site and that place, it's purely your game. And they will marketplaces will just take a cut, and they will have the SLAs and things around it. Okay. And what it means is, like, they will also give you an auto management system and their auto management system, and you have to toe the line in terms of how that system works and behaves. Okay. uh, so it's not as simple for brands, because it's like you need to, so initially all these tasks were done by the marketplace companies themselves. Okay. It was buy and sell model, which converted into dropship, and now this pure play
Correct.
marketplace. So what these guys are doing is that they are offloading many of their costs and passing on to bigger brands. That, guys, you manage everything. So it's not that straightforward. So you need to have your own merchandise planners. You need to have your buyers. You need to have your all the components that are needed to run this machinery. The warehouse, because then you need to link up your warehouse with the marketplaces. So then the only thing is that it's not your own website, but it's like Myntra or anyone else. It's their website, and then the traffic gets routed to your warehouse. uh, versus you have your own site, and then also you have to follow all these things. Okay. Because if you're having your own site, then also you have to create all these functions, you have to have those people to manage all of these complexities, so for bigger brands it's the same thing, and then you have to realize and think through whether you want to do it or not. But for the smaller players, who's a shopkeeper who's like selling something unique, um, or you are in a category where you are selling maybe plants, exotic plants or whatever it is, and your market is in a particular geography, then there is a different equation altogether. Then marketplaces provides you and gives you tools so that you can do it in a very simple and nimble way. Okay. so
Sure.
so and your question that why you should do it, I think from a customer perspective, if you see, customer is going everywhere. Okay. So and it ultimately it's a call that a brand need to take, that ultimately it's like who needs whom kind of a equation, you need to be everywhere, it's your call. Because today we are talking about marketplaces, Siju, I am sure that down the line we are going to see China kind of model where you are buying things through WeChat kind of a your chat engine. It could be WhatsApp, you never know. So the interface to buy will change. So that's my personal view.
Right, and the marketplace obviously gives a brand or a seller a very low entry barrier, right? I mean, he can easily, the speed to market is pretty high in that case, and he just needs to make sure that he's got the right stuff, which is priced right. But when you have your own site, obviously you have to work on so many other parameters in terms of how do you make sure that there is traffic which is driven to your site, how do you ensure conversions. So that's a completely different ballgame. Right. So,
Absolutely.
which brings me to the next question, Vishal, in terms of when, let's say, I decide, or as a brand, I decide to go onto the e-commerce and climb onto the e-commerce bandwagon. What are the specific things that I need to keep in mind? Um, and since you bring in this focus around people, process, and technology, around these parameters, how do you think a brand should evaluate themselves? How should they get ready to board this train called the e-commerce train?
Very good question, actually. So I want to break it into two parts, uh, because you're talking about brand. Um,
Right.
so there is something called, as I mentioned earlier, very briefly, there is something called as business model, and then there is a operating model. Okay, business model is more about what value, how do you reach out to people, uh, and what business benefit you are giving, and how you want to scale. It's like Microsoft, thinking that this is what I want to do for enterprise, and hence you
Yeah.
have Office 365 and so on and so forth. Similarly, and the operating model basically is all about your uh, assets, capabilities, people, the structure that you need to have, so on and so forth. And uh, so your question is more about what is it that brand need to do. So they need to understand that if they are so in that also there are two things, like old way and a new way. So old way is like if you are an established brand and you want to do something, so it's like retrofitting a concept into a technology. You are a brand and you want to reach out to people, you see an opportunity, so you have a lesser time to market. You say, okay, fine, I've got this technology outside, SaaS thing is there, I don't know how to do ecom. Okay, let me test the waters. So what I do, I take some SaaS platform, this is the technology we've got, uh, what benefits, what features it has, you just do that. And then uh, what needs do I need to offer as a benefit to the consumer. You just look at that, and how much it cost, and then you launch. Okay. So this is a very old way of doing a business, but this is also good for those brands who don't know what is there in ecom for them, you know but the new way of looking at it, if you look at the successful and very large companies, people who were not that large but became large, uh, they look at it's a customer centric approach. They look at who are my customers. Are they mobile first? So shall I create something which is mobile first? Okay. So can you do an Uber only on desktop? Answer is no. You can, but I think so. So you create from scratch, and that's how you create the product that way. And how do you what is it that your customers feel when they want to interact with you? What experience they would like to have with you as a brand? So if you're a brand and if you think on these kind of lines, then the product you will have is very different, is my take. And then the kind of operating model that you will have, the kind of people you need to do both kind of things, the old way and the new way. Then you will in old way you will just have few people who are working in your current organization, and you will just repackage them, and you will say, okay, fine, you do you were doing this earlier, now you do this, and you just see how is the benefit. And maybe you hire 2 3 people from industry who's like been there, done that. But if you look at the new way, I would say you are becoming more of a tech company. As somebody said that, as Domino's also say that they are not into a pizza business, they are a tech company.
Right. They're a tech
So
company. Yeah.
they are tech company. So the brand, basically they need, the new way is more like the people equation in the operating model. Then it changes totally. Then you will bring those people who are like been there, done that, or maybe not been there, but they are coming with those skills and capabilities that they can transform, and they can take it to the next level. And then you look at the processes also in that way. So it's not retrofitting the concept. That's my
So,
view.
so what you're saying is that if you have the right people, then the chances of adopting or putting in place the right process template is much higher.
I would say it's again, it goes down. It's not about you can hire a lister from a listing company, and then you can ask him to change it. You know, uh,
Hmm.
we have enough examples in India wherein the old companies, they tried something and they have shut it. They stopped the e-commerce. We have abof.com as one of the examples. So
Correct.
very good site, very good product, but then the entire thing was the whole thing was destroyed. So it's a function. It's not about the process and the people. It's about board members. They need to decide that what is it. Then you can set everything right. You know, that's my personal view.
So assuming the fact that the board members are fine and they're very much aligned. Let's say the business model is aligned, the operating model is aligned. Uh, Amongst the three parameters of people, process, and technology, where do you think a lot of us we are actually failing, uh, and hence our overall dream of launching an e-commerce site is going for a toss? Which
So
which amongst the three is more important? Do you think?
I would say, see, you can sort out technology, but if you have wrong set of people, you will create a wrong set of processes, or you will not challenge the set processes, the existing processes. Uh, Simple things like how do you take returns? How do you communicate that you are doing this? These kind of things for COVID. If you are doing shipments, for an example, in current situation, how do you put across that message? What process that you need to follow? If you don't have right set of people, all these things will be quite muddled. It'll be, it'll take a lot of time, you know. And so for me, people comes first, and then those people can actually change the whole equation. So they can change the shape of technology, they can change the shape of processes and the assets and the capabilities that you need to build.
So as
uh,
we are talking, I just saw a question from Shalini Vijay Gopalan. But I will take Shalini's question sometime later down the path. But Shalini, I would also request if you could indicate as to which organization you belong to. And this is a request to all folks who are going to post questions. Please give us your name and the organization that you belong to, so the answer can be actually made more relevant. I'll come to your question, Shalini, during the course of discussion. Now, Vishal, one of the issues is around um, folks or enterprises which have, let's say, a physical presence. And I'm not talking of big brands. I could be just having a physical presence in terms of 5 stores, 10 stores, 15 stores, 20 stores. And then, I decide, okay, I need to probably get onto the e-commerce bandwagon. And then that dreaded word called omni-channel crops up, right? So, how do you make when and how do you make this decision, whether you want to be an e-com? For example, we have someone like the DMart, which has very carefully segregated their physical business as well as their online business. Two completely different businesses, but they've always done different stuff differently. So no surprises there, but they haven't really gone the omni-channel way. Now, coming to this question, if I was a brand with let's say a physical presence and I want to get onto the e-commerce bandwagon, do I get onto the pure play e-commerce bandwagon first and then think omni-channel, or do I do omni-channel right from day one? And
See,
what exactly does omni-channel mean? I mean, if you could
yeah.
precede it with that, that'd be fine.
So first of all, we need to understand what is omnichannel. Omnichannel basically means you keep customer at the center and then you cater to that individual's requirements in a very
Correct.
simple language. Uh, but the more you expand in different use cases, it becomes complicated. Okay. If your question is about somebody who's like 10 stores and you want to start, what do you do? My recommendation would be to start simple. Do not overcomplicate your life. Start very, very simple. So there are enough and more micro e-commerce methods available these days. There are enough Facebook. You'll be surprised that amount of commerce that Facebook is doing in country. There are enough, so many people who started. I met one startup sometime back, Preeta, and she was like, she started with the selling some designer stuff that she was designing from her home, and she had one tailor, and she's now I think more than 70 people company, so she started only on Facebook, and she was like having groups, and she started sharing, and people started forwarding. So I think ultimately uh, we don't have to really bite the bullet in terms of technology. There are enough tools available, free tools available. We should use those, and if you are very small, leverage that and spread it out. I have a company who is doing more than 200 orders a day on organic vegetables in this situation, only through Telegram.
So
So
Telegram.
through Telegram, yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure if a lot of the generation of today would even know what a Telegram is.
Okay. So people know.
That's interesting.
So more than 200 orders a day to sell organic vegetables and all that every day. So there are people for, if you are really small and you need to be smart, how do you leverage all these tools available, and then go for it. But if you are a little bigger and you are aspiring to be uh, something different, uh, then you need to look at from a different perspective.
Okay, so it's okay to start simple, start with a simple e-commerce engine, and then as you go ahead.
Yeah, and don't overcomplicate your life on omni-channel and all that buzzword, because the moment you say omni-channel, as you mentioned, you took an example of DMart. Why there is an inventory segregation? Okay, because omni-channel also means that you are showing the store inventory onto your
Right.
platform. And what happens if your store inventory logic is like, if there are units for an article which is buffer stock is just 3, and you are starting a sale, and what happens if you have 5-6 customers in the store at any point in time carrying that article in their hand? So it will show as an inventory to be available on your site, that yes, somebody online can buy it. Actually you can't buy, because the stuff in store is somebody is holding it. So there will be an issue. So how do you then manage it if you haven't thought through all these scenarios? And that's one of the reasons why people use their current stores as a fulfillment centers, because they segregate their inventory to the what is available in the store. So it sounds very nice, omni-channel, but it's very difficult to implement. Not that very difficult, but it is challenging.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fundamental change in philosophy. I mean, it's a fundamental philosophy in itself, whether to be omni-channel or just an e-commerce ready company. So at Marks and Spencer's, what's the journey that you've traveled?
So what we have tried to do is we have tried to keep things very simple in our life. We have launched our site just 3 days before the lockdown, and 3 days gave us a lot of insights in terms of how the customers are behaving. And after the lockdown, I think it's 10 days now. We are trading only in the green and amber zones. Um Ship from store has some few orders came. So we started with ship from store and buy online, ship from store, pick in store as well. All those kind of scenarios. So it's tricky, but somehow we landed it in a very short time. Uh,
Yeah, somehow the timing was pretty neat that way. I guess it kind of helped you ease into the whole
uh,
scenario
it,
in
it,
retrospect, actually.
yeah, it just so happened actually. Uh,
True, true, true.
so we have some more questions here.
Yes.
Shalini.
So yeah. So I was just coming to that in terms of end of the day, it's about how a customer interacts with you as a brand, right? And that's what a lot of the organizations today are doing. Both organizations who have been in retail for a long time, digitally native organizations, and startups. All of these are very very focused on how customers interact with them, and hence one of the channels that a lot of brands are thinking and taking up are the chat engines like a WeChat or a WhatsApp.
Mm,
Now, while my question, there was a question in my pocket around how are you looking at that as a channel, and
mm,
I'll dovetail it to what Shalini heads sales and strategy for Again Drinks.
mm,
Now, Again Drinks is a cool new startup. It's actually promoted by Vedishwaran, a person whom I've had the opportunity to meet, and one of the kind of founding fathers of Indian retail.
mm,
So so she represents Shalini represents Again Drinks, and they are into this cool set of drinks, and they are using WhatsApp for Business as a means to reach out to customers, but they are having a certain amount of friction in terms of getting consumers to adopt WhatsApp as a channel. So while the planning part of it kind of threw up probably interesting numbers in terms of how they would consumers would eagerly adopt WhatsApp as a channel to engage, but I guess Shalini and team are finding that to be a little more difficult than what it was thought to be. It's a challenge educating the shopper. So, any tips on that front that you would want to give to Shalini to make the approach more intuitive? Uh,
See, WhatsApp, unfortunately, is full of junk these days, not because of advertisement messages, because of all that forwards that we are getting from everybody, all our friends and family and everyone, right? And everyone thinks it's important to share. So, and having WhatsApp for business also opening up for buying. um, a lot of people don't know it actually. People think that it's just person to person. um, See, as business people, we know that WhatsApp for business is there, but a lot of people don't know it. And when they see some messages coming in, mm, uh, in my view, it's there are two kind of worlds that are happening. I have met a startup few days back, and they are saying that through WhatsApp they are able to do the bookings for walking into the stores, and leveraging WhatsApp for video for enterprise to show certain articles from the store, because customer doesn't want to take pains of traveling. So WhatsApp for business is being used as a video platform, and you can the sales guy is showing the dress and all those kind of things. Okay. um, and so there are different use cases. I think it's very early stages. Different people are trying to use it, but I can't give any advice to Shalini. I think whatever it's see, the category also need to be understood, that we need to understand that if the category of drinks, for an example, whether it's an energy drink or a health drink or whatever, uh, if there is a buying pattern, and how, so the demand side of it, if the demand side of it is coming from a particular place, it's very difficult to break that habit of buying. you know. uh, so so if I've not bought grocery um, from a store for very long time, forget about COVID-19, but otherwise also for many years now. So it's only online I'm buying through an app. And that's my demand generation channel. And for WhatsApp to become that demand generation channel, it will take some time. And if your category is into that kind of a thing where people are locked into that particular ecosystem, it's difficult to break that, is my personal view.
Okay, so what you're saying is essentially it's a new habit. Consumers will take time to adopt that habit, but it's a pretty viable channel, considering the fact that there are about 450 million users in India on WhatsApp, and which is about one third of the population of this country.
Absolutely, absolutely. My take is that if you already have, so once the travel opens as a category, because you are already getting boarding passes from SpiceJet or different companies
Right.
on WhatsApp, and it's already integrated, people know how to use it. It's going to happen once it opens that you can even start booking your flights through WhatsApp once the payments are integrated and all that. So there are certain categories which will definitely fly off initially, is what I think of. But then other categories will slowly catch up.
Sure. So that's Shalini. So I hope you've got your answer in terms of a cautious optimism from Vishal in terms of WhatsApp as a channel. But I believe you should hang on to it, because that's a fairly low entry barrier channel, and could possibly, and consumers in India are fast learners any which way, right? We've overnight kind of turned ourselves into an e-commerce generation. And I live in a complex of 650 odd families, and almost everyone knows how to use digital payments and e-commerce and WhatsApp and so on and so forth. So I guess it's only a matter of time before you kind of break the code out there, Shalini, and all the best. We have another question from an anonymous attendee. I would really respect if folks can actually tell me the names and the organizations that they are representing. But anyways, we'll take this. The question, Vishal, is with COVID-19 here to stay for long, the focus of brands and retailers is now going to shift to e-commerce. What is your view on how customer behavior is going to change in terms of ticket size, repeat orders, and buying cycle? In other words, what he's probably asking is, he or she is probably asking is this a flash in the pan, or do you think this is going to be sustained behavior, even after the pandemic is out?
I would say that both will happen. See, e-commerce, people who are not on e-commerce, on digital, they have also come on digital because of COVID-19 situation. And they know now how easy it is to use and the convenience factor. And a lot of people were not coming on digital shopping because of fear that we still have in our society in terms of digital payments, how secure are these, and so on and so forth. So many myths are broken for many people. So it's going to stay and it's going to become stronger. And my view is that these strong companies will become stronger. When I'm not saying bigger will become bigger, I'm saying strong companies. So companies where the business operating model is very strong, people, process, assets, capabilities, those things are there. They are going to become stronger. And we will shift, we'll see e-commerce to grow, even COVID or non-COVID from here on, because it has just accelerated a lot of people who are not on e-com to the e-com and digital. That's number one. Number two, the question is on the ticket size and repeat orders and the buying cycle. So it's a, what is really happening is, I'll talk about the repeat. Uh, in Facebook, if you talk to digital marketeers, they talk about what is your thumb stopping moment? Because
Yeah.
in Facebook, you're on a phone and you keep moving your thumb like this, you are just scrolling. And they say that create a content on Facebook, which is like a thumb stopping moment. I was not knowing this term sometime back till somebody introduced it to me. And he was using TSM. So what is your TSM and TSM in the discussion? Okay. So I asked him after the meeting ended, what is this TSM? I thought it's a new marketing metric. Then I realized that it's not a metric, it's a thumb stopping movement, and that's how you create the content for that channel. And this COVID-19 situation has made people watch so much of content now on whether it's just streaming platform or wherever it is. Uh, so it's a challenge for even e-commerce companies how to keep their content updated. You know, you can't do so much of shoots. So what is the freshness on your site? See, if you're a grocery or fresh product category e-commerce player, then the banana stays banana. So once you have shot the image, it stays there. But if you're fashion category, if you are certain different other categories, there need to be a freshness and repeat orders is quite linked to and your ticket size and your buying cycle. And it's like you need to keep people engaged. Uh, now you now there is something like this which is existing and you bought this, but then I have all those engines with me as a which is throwing up recommendations and all that. But uh, how do I do it and how do I make it better? I need to have that much content also. So I'll give you an example. What Mintra is doing very beautifully is that they have created a video channel wherein for some time now, and people are quite engaged and the stickiness is very very high. Okay, so video as a method where consumers are shooting their content, and it's like
Right.
weaving the social into and the video into your e-commerce platform, and that's how you bring in stickiness onto the platform. So there are multiple methods happening, but short answer would be yes, ticket size will grow, repeat orders will grow, and the buying cycle will be not long, it will be shortened, in my personal view.
And in other words, a lot depends on a retailer's ability to drive content and engagement. These are the two important terms, right? In terms of content and engagement for consumers uh, to actually budget for a higher ticket size and come in repeatedly to you.
Absolutely. So we all are saying that, oh, there are job cuts and this and that, and a lot of things. There'll be crunch and lesser demand and so on and so forth. Look at China. Look at Korea. For all the big fashion brands, there is in fact queues of people lining up to buy the limited edition stuff. And when Fendi opened in China, they had like in one day more than €1 million sale in one day in one store. So, yeah, so I don't know. There is no perfect answer for this, but my view is that it's a mix of both. People would like to go online and shop more, and people will like to go to the stores because they are restricted and they would want to go out. So both things will happen. So it's not that everyone will move towards online. It's offline also. A lot of action will happen. Uh, so
Yeah, probably quite a few functions which were predominantly happening only offline could get on to be online, and there'll be a more equitable mix between the online and offline channels, and that's probably going to remain as the reality of the day. And in a certain way, this also is an answer to you, Shalini, in terms of how do you make sure that your engagement with your customers on WhatsApp is good. Again, it's all about content. It's all about WhatsApp supports rich media. It's all about rich media. It's all about engagement. What is it that you're planning as an engagement strategy with your customer? And once you crack that code, I guess it becomes easier for you.
see, my few cents to Shalini is for because if you look at another app, if you look at go on Google and search for something, and if you look at who are the people advertising online, and you'll find that TikTok is advertising quite a lot. Okay, and you will find that a lot of Facebook products are advertising. They have to advertise, you'll be surprised, they are advertising for Insta and all those other things. Why are they doing it? um, and Another such app is House Party. uh, I don't know how many of you have used it, but if you're a company into drinks and if people are doing house party, and why not you create your own house party events with your drinks, and going to a condo and doing a house party and supplying them with your seeding your product over there. It's an activation strategy actually, and putting a spin, and you can have a DJ coming in. You can tie up with a DJ who's working from his home. There are a lot of talent sitting at home and available. And they are uh, available at a lesser cost. So your cost to rope in all such talent is also less. So you can. I'm just giving you an activation idea. As a startup, what all things are possible, and all these tools are almost free. So it's just that how you look at you know creating those events. So once the people have tried, you have seeded the product in a particular condo, and then you go from condo to condo, and maybe that could be one strategy. So it's not just always people will come to you just to buy when you send them a message. Why will they come to you if they haven't heard of you? So if they haven't tried your product, so make them try your product, and then uh, how easy it is to get the product is where WhatsApp for Business comes in. That I can order from there, and I get it shipped or receive it at a particular time. You know.
Correct. So which gets us to the very critical component about last mile. And that's what one of the attendees is posing in terms of last mile is a very critical element in e-commerce success. How is Marks and Spencer's working with partners to deliver better tracking and experience?
Yeah. So last mile, I agree, is a very critical component in any e-commerce. Um, and it's not a very easy problem to solve. Okay. Because I have had various debates in terms of like uh, the pin code where I live, a section of it, uh, which is really far, some 3 kilometers. Uh, a society was put on a quarantine. Okay, and the whole pin code was made unavailable. So we had a debate that it's a segment which is a potential buyer. How do we then, though the courier company is doing the red zone flag, how do we even ship, okay, and take the returns? So it's a due to COVID-19 situation. So there's a lot of engineering effort that has gone in to even crack these problems. Okay, how do you
So who
get?
are your, sorry to interrupt you, but who are your fulfillment partners,
So
Vishal?
as a company, we work with Ecom and Ecom Express and Delivery.
Okay.
Uh, uh, it's just two of them, and so the last mile is basically linked with them, and like any other, like Blue Dart or anyone else, you will have the SLAs, and you, the whole tracking thing is shown to you on your site. Where is your order and things like that, and the tracking URL is basically provided by your delivery partner. So there are aggregators also available in market like Narvar and ClickPost and so on and so forth.
And ShipRocket, for example, yeah.
Rocket is also there. So they also provide all these things. But the current large courier companies also, they provide all this tracking in terms of where the box is. If you ask me how good it is, it's not perfect. It's not yet reached to the situation like Swiggy and Zomato, or maybe Domino's, because they burn a lot of money in terms of Google paying to Google Maps and the Google API, because there it's like minute by minute, and it's like very topical food as a category. So for fashion and other products category, it's not you don't need to burn that much money on the tracking to the every minute kind of a scenario. Um,
So do you see any aspects of your current last mile fulfillment to be getting better? Are you thinking of any strategies to make it better? And
it will be better, Siju. There are multiple problems. that we need to solve currently in the country. Because currently in country, many, as you know, that delivery partners are not taking returns.
Yeah, that's a big issue these days. Yes.
That's a big issue we have today. So it's only the forward journey which we have. How do you do the reverse journey if the fit is not proper and customer? And you know that in e-com for fashion in India, it's more than 20% is returns. So
Correct.
how do you do that? And people don't like the box lying in their house if they have decided to return that product. That box will be sitting somewhere closer to the door, and every day it's an irritating factor. So, but it's a situation. So in COVID-19, it's a situation for everyone. So, but how do you message it? How do you make sure that when the moment when it opens, you are one of those first people to come and service the customer, um, and then process the refunds if refunds as an option is there, and all those kind of things. So you need to be go very cautious in terms of managing that customer experience end to end.
So obviously, this will call for a lot of collaboration and engagement with your fulfillment partners, and I think that's going to be the order of the day, with brands collaborating very closely with their fulfillment partners. And it's not that they are different parts of the chain; they are part of the same chain.
Yeah, so Siju, my take here is that if you look at the innovation that is happening at courier company end in India, it's also, I would say, I'll not be critical, but I would say that it's overhyped. A lot of these companies, the new age companies in courier last mile delivery, the valuations are very high. They're getting a lot of money. But if you look at how many companies have even created a uh, API as a service, the amount of effort it takes today for any brand to integrate with the so-called all these new age courier companies is very difficult. It's not easy. Okay.
Hmm.
It takes a lot of effort, it costs you money and all that. And then you are sometimes forced to think of, why not I go to a aggregator and integrate with just them, and then go elsewhere. But then it costs you money every time you ship one order, whatever is that money. So long term, is it it's draining out your money from a packet which you have not even delivered, and then there is a return. So it reduces your unit economics when your ticket size is smaller. But if your margins are very high, then you can really sustain it, but it's not healthy. So the only way to do it is that courier companies should look at creating some kind of API as a service, you know, which we have spoken a lot in the tech world,
Yeah,
microservices as a platform,
API first, and so on and
API
so forth. Yeah.
first, microservices as a platform, but it's not there. You
Hmm.
scratch the surface of all these large, high valued companies in the courier ecosystem. They don't have these things out of box, and it's still the old way of integrating into their things. Because the question that this anonymous attendee has raised, better tracking and experience. So experience is like there are more than 200 events that come. The courier company send you when the courier company has received the packet, dispatched, it has reached their distribution center, and so on and so forth. There are more than 200 events that happen in the whole cycle. Are you going to send 200 SMSs to people
Yeah.
for one order? Answer is
True.
no. So how do you manage all that? Where is that intelligence in the minds of people in brands on the company side? Okay, out of these 200 events, I pick up these three, four, five, whatever, which I need to inform. The person is coming to pick this stuff or deliver this stuff. They're going to call you up. This is this delivery guy's number, so on and so forth. So
Hmm.
you can complicate your life and you can simplify your life at the same
Yeah,
time.
or else have these 200 events available with you and on demand from a consumer, pass on information which a customer needs. So
Absolutely. So that's where
yeah,
I'm saying that API is a service. So
correct.
because to configure all of that onto your marketing cloud, whichever marketing cloud tool you have taken, it's hell of an effort.
True.
So
True.
and if it's like Um, so we are talking tech here, but point is that how do you make it very easy for consumer? Okay, I want to get alerts uh, in against my orders against these things, but I don't want alerts other than that. Or it
Correct.
could be another way around that, okay, I'm getting all these alerts, but alert me on this as well. Okay, so can you enable that as a platform? Answer is no. It's not that very straightforward. So
Hmm.
that's something which goes next level of experience in my view.
No, that's interesting that you brought this up, Vishal, because I think this calls for innovation on their part as well, collaborating with brands like yours. Now, coming back to one particular aspect of Indian e-commerce that kind of accelerated the whole process of e-commerce in India was cash on delivery. Now, there was a point in time when cash on delivery was a huge component of overall deliveries being affected. But today, in the COVID situation, I think almost all brands have suspended cash on delivery.
Mm.
Now, in this scenario, and I suspect some of them will carry on this strategy beyond COVID as well, because the cash on delivery was very draining as well, was always very draining.
Mm.
Now, in that scenario, how do you think brands can you know um, prepare themselves? Because a COD less scenario is actually not a very nice scenario for a e-commerce retailer who's just starting up.
I am with you. So if you look at the conversion rates on any e-commerce site today, though there are less pin codes that you are servicing, COD uh, less or maybe minus the COD as a capability or a payment method, there is a reduced conversion on the e-com sites. Okay, um, so people have to brace themselves and maybe change that COD thing to maybe pay by Paytm or Bheem API or whatever. But in India, you can't take cash out of hands. You know, it's going to stay. And people who deal in cash, they will like to pay in cash only. In COVID-19 situation, unfortunately, because in my personal view, COD is going to, as a payment option, is going to be stopped for a pretty long time, and it should be, because if you open it, you are putting somebody's life at risk, and that somebody is in a low strata of a society, and given the situation of migrant workers not being available, you have less and less delivery boys in the ecosystem who are available. And if they stay healthy, this e-commerce engine will work. If they
True,
don't
true.
stay healthy, and if your DC people in distribution centers, they don't stay healthy, we have an issue. And this is one of the things that you look around across world. This is one area where most of the e-commerce companies are hiring, because it is an issue. In India, we get overwhelmed with all this news of migrant laborers or leaving in droves. They are not there, and so on and so forth. But look, in Europe and what is happening in US, Amazon had to increase the salary of their last mile employees, and there has been protests also. And this is and if you bring COD along with that, you are basically bringing more risk on your table.
True.
So I would I would think that uh, it will continue the way it is for some time
Hmm.
till this we are out of COVID.
Correct. And probably we'll see a scenario where COD is replaced by POD, which is payment on delivery, like you mentioned, and it's a digital payment on delivery, right? A DPOD, if I may. So one last question to you, Vishal, before we wind up, and in case any more questions come up, we'll take that up. But one more question. Looking back, do you think there are things that you could have done differently, or you would have done differently with the e-commerce launch that you did with Marks and Spencer?
Um, Things we would have done differently is more in terms of very difficult question, Siju. You put me on spot. I think what I would have done differently is not taken up so much of scope in the beginning itself, like uh, mm, buy online and pick in store kind of a model and all those
Okay.
kind of things. Because what happens is during the implementation time, uh, it puts a lot of pressure on the team to deliver on every aspect of what you have signed up for. Okay. So you need to plan your sprints and the whole thing in a from a what should be
Phased
your
manner.
what should be your MVP in a very simplistic view, keeping customer in mind, and that this is what we should do. So first land it. If you haven't done e-commerce ever in your life, first you land very basic foundation things right, operations and so on and so forth, and then you move on to the next part of it.
So your parting words, Vishal, in terms of three advices that you would give to budding e-commerce aspirants.
If it is brands, I would say look for talent who can take you from uh, point A to point B. And when you get that talent, uh, provide an ecosystem, the operating model, which is your process, assets, and the structure to work and deliver that agenda. Because if you don't provide this structure, uh, uh, despite 1.3 billion people in India, the talent to land complex things are limited. So that's what I would say to anyone, whether you are a startup or a brand, that in this trying time, everybody is looking for doing something in digital, and people who are in digital domain, tech side or process side or product side, they will be in demand. um, so enable them, make them part of your core strategy group, so that they tell what is right and what is wrong, call out the elephant in the room very clearly.
Thank you so much, Vishal. So, in other words, invest into good talent, which can land your e-commerce plans, and spend time building up the structure which will help this talent land these plans. And Vishal, it's always such a pleasure speaking to you, because you come across as a very forthcoming and very, very honest, person with significant access to the domain that you are in. So thank you so very much, Vishal, for sharing your thoughts on e-commerce. And I hope all the participants loved the last 60 minutes of the interaction that we had. So thank you so much, Vishal, once again. Take care. And thanks a lot to all the participants. Take care and good luck.
Thank you everyone, my pleasure. See ya, bye.
Bye-bye.